We weren't sure if my dad was even gonna make it.
I need you to breathe into this as deeply as you can. You're turning blue.
I was mad at them. I did not want to talk to them.
I need you to send angels to get rid of this.
Grief comes in waves.
We were ecstatic. We're finally pregnant. Amelia's born. We could tell something was wrong.
She was not gaining weight. Food hurt her.
We left the Mayo Clinic. She started to grow.
Do you want to go to heaven and help the Lord pick out another baby for us?
This family story is really God's hand through the tough times.
We're on the other side. We've come through. Is God going to give us more? He calls our family to hard things. He might call us to more that's hard. These are real people. These are real stories. This is all true. We don't do fake. We had 2 years of unexplained infertility. People in my family make babies like rabbits. Something about that didn't work for me. They never figured it out.
Madeline finally got pregnant with the help of IVF. We were ecstatic. We're finally pregnant. This is great. She's born very small, 5 pounds, 1 ounce. Full term, but 5 pounds, 1 ounce.
Amelia,
Amelia's born, and almost right off the bat, we could tell something was wrong.
pregnancy was totally fine. No complications whatsoever. She was really little when she was born, but I'm not the biggest person. Brian's big. I'm kind of little. She was really little.
I had this uneasy feeling that the doctor, immediately upon seeing Amelia and how small she was and developmental problems, something's gone wrong.
She was really lethargic in an unnatural way, and I was feeding her almost literally around the clock. I would sleep for 30 minutes, wake up and try to get her to feed, and she was not gaining weight the way that she should. We end up, when she's 2 months old, in the hospital because she can't take food directly, swallow it, it's not working. There was something wrong with that mechanism for her.
She was drinking the formula straight into her lungs. I mean, it was horrifying. The radiologist just turned sheet white and couldn't believe it and said from now on she can never be fed through a bottle until we get this fixed.
She had a tube that we put in her nose and went down into her tummy, and we could just put food in a syringe and put it straight into her stomach. So she gained some weight, but she was getting really violently sick every time we'd feed her. Food hurt her, and we couldn't figure it out, and no doctors could figure it out. That was the first of a number of hospital stays where we were trying to figure out what was going on with our girl. We ended up at one point when she was 8 months old in the hospital for a 21-day hospital stay where they ran every test trying to figure out what on earth was wrong with her because she was frighteningly lethargic. I had saved her life a couple of times by that point. When she was 10 months old, something that never showed up again ever on any test showed that she might have a problem metabolizing fat.
When we hear metabolic disorder, we think of somebody who can't gain weight or can't lose weight. This is not that. This is completely different. This is a problem at the cellular level where she was not able to process fat into energy.
But it would explain why she was getting sick at every feeding. We took her off everything except essential fatty acids. She got much better. We end up with this metabolic geneticist at the Mayo Clinic he looked like Santa Claus.
Brilliant person who tested her for dozens of computer screens worth of possible disorders.
He was great, and he said, I suspect that she has a fat metabolism disorder, meaning her body can't metabolize fat. We're in a field of medicine where not everything has a name. He tested her for every known fat metabolism disorder. He tested her for a bunch of other things. All the tests came back negative. And so we thought, well, yay, you're brilliant, but it's just a mistake and she's gonna be fine. And he said, I hope that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I think she has one that just hasn't been codified in the medical literature yet. If that's the case, I need you to know 2 things. He said, if I'm right, metabolic disorders, they're always terminal. And kids with metabolic disorders, when they start to go down, they go down really fast.
We left the Mayo Clinic after the first visit on a funky diet of really broken down foods and formulas that no one's ever heard of, pumping her full of vitamins and enzymes and CoQ10 and things like that, feeding her through a port in her side. She was gaining weight. She started to grow.
We were ready to have a second child. After we had Amelia, we didn't know at the time if what she had was genetic or not. There are many children who need to be adopted. So we chose to go the adoption route for our second child.
I was excited.
Anna is 17. We adopted her at birth from West Virginia.
They never really told me I was adopted exactly. It was just kind of something I always knew. We talked about it a lot in our family, so it was never like a, oh, like surprise moment. It was just, I always knew. When I was younger, it was kind of harder for me to accept that like I was adopted, that I was technically given up. I'm very grateful now for my parents and the opportunity, so.
We adopt Mariana, and it's 4 months later. Madeline comes in with a pregnancy test, and her hands are shaking, and it's positive. Well, I'm feeding Mariana a bottle, and Madeline comes out with a pregnancy test.
I'm glad you're sitting down.
And I was thrilled, but I thought, this doesn't happen for us. This is not our deal. Mm-mm. This can't be possible. This is incredible. She goes to the doctor, and it's confirmed. We had Mariana, and then almost exactly a year later, Brent's born.
I'm Brent Robinson. I'm going into my junior year of high school. I play tennis, so we'll be doing speech and debate this year. I greatly enjoy looking into apologetics.
Seeing Brent in the womb sucking his thumb was huge because Amelia had never been able to do that.
She had never been able to
She
swallow
could
right.
never do that right. There were all kinds of signs from God that this was going to be a healthy child and this was going to work out great. But that was one where I remember both of us saw that on the screen. This is a great sign. This is really exciting. It's a big deal.
I have been blessed with two phenomenal parents who deeply care about us.
Cutest thing you'd ever seen, because she had curly hair like Shirley Temple. But before her curls grew in, she was this bald little baby with these glasses. She was like a Chicken Little, you know, just the cutest little thing. And had a great smile, and eventually grew into a child with a wonderful belly laugh and a sweet disposition. Very smart. She had remarkable receptive language, so she understood far beyond her age, but she only had about 6 words ever in her life, and they were hard to come by for her. She would do 100 sit-ups in a row, which physiologically you shouldn't be able to do at the age that she was doing them, but she was such a fighter you'd have to stop her in physical therapy from doing more so she wouldn't hurt herself. She had gone back to the Mayo Clinic at some point in there. He continued to say, I'm glad that she's doing better. I'm not sure he thought she was going to live to be a year old. Most metabolic kids, they don't live past 18 months to 2 years.
A little after she turned 4 years old, she started to lose weight again.
I thought she's losing a lot of baby weight. Kids around 3.5 and 4 years old, they tend to lose baby weight. That's around when I did. All of her therapy was making her tired faster, and I just didn't notice it. I just thought, I noticed it, but I didn't attribute something negative to it. When she was just shy of 4 years and 4 months, there was a day when she lost control of her bowels.
Madeline had Amelia out at a beautiful resort. She called me and said, there's something really wrong. Every time we feed her through her port, it comes out in her diaper within a few minutes. This is just a disaster.
I just knew. I didn't think we were going to outlive her. So I have no, other than the Holy Spirit speaking into my spirit and letting me know she's not here on earth that much longer. Enjoy her, because she's going to be home with Jesus soon. I called our beloved GI, and he was wonderful. I said, Jack, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what's been going on with her. Can you tell me anything that I'm telling you that tells you anything other than the fact that she's dying? And he didn't want to tell me, but he eventually said, no, I can't. That's a sign.
I dropped everything at work, took off. We then decided instead of going straight home, we would go by church because we had Amelia in it was called the co-op program. The teachers there had been amazing.
She had sweet friends in that class, and we took her there to say goodbye. And then we went home, and we stayed at home. It wasn't going to let her die in a hospital. She'd had enough of hospitals when she was younger. And Brian felt the same way.
We had just, a ton of visitors coming in for that last week.
When Amelia would get tired, she would let us know just with a facial expression, and we would go carry her off to her room, and she would take a nap. And then on April 10th, she let us know that she was ready to go rest by herself in her bed. And we took her in her bed. And a little while later, I went to check on her, and she had already gone to Jesus. Sorry.
There had been a bird sitting in a tree right outside the window of her bedroom that entire week. It was not in a nest. We opened the blinds. to let the light in after she had died, and the bird's gone. It was just an interesting symbol to us. You know, she's not here anymore. She's much better off. At her memorial service, the pastor who gave the message was amazing and did a great job. And he said, when somebody dies, we're not sad that they're gone. We're sad that they're not gone inside of us. I thought that was dead on accurate. We're not sad she's gone because we know where she is, and we as Christians really believe that. But she's still, still part of us and still part of our lives, and we miss her terribly.
In the days that she was dying, she couldn't talk. She could just make sounds. I wasn't gonna have an empty bedroom in our house. I couldn't not have another child. And so I remember asking Amelia, do you want to go to heaven and help the Lord pick out another baby for us? And it just made her so happy. Every time she would be so weak and so weak and so weak, and I would ask her that the last several days of her life, and she would light up like a Christmas tree. A year and 2 weeks after she went home to be with Jesus, our Blake was born.
I'm so grateful I'm adopted. I found out as soon as I can remember. It's not like they were ever holding anything back from me. It's amazing. I was adopted into a great home, 2 parents, which not a lot of kids can have.
For as far as I can remember, he's always been in my life because I've just grown up with them. I've grown up with an older sister, and I've just had a younger brother. They're blood relatives to me.
95% of people who outlive couples who outlive a child end up divorced. And I think where the struggle comes from for a lot of couples is grief comes in waves, but it doesn't come in waves the same way at the same time to both parents. It can be the husband or it can be the wife, but one of them is in a really deep part of the grief, and the other one is kind of fine. The other one's able to smile and talk about things that don't have to do with that child, and the other one's able to go off and do other activities. And so often the one who's in the deepest parts of grief at that moment is going, you didn't really love her, you didn't really love him. And it gets accusatory, and it's awful, and it's toxic, and it's terrible, and it's a part of this sinfulness in our broken world. Like today, I've cried talking about her. There are times when I can talk about her and not even a hint of a tear comes to my eye. That is perfectly fine. I don't love her any less on the days when I don't cry over her. I don't love her any more on the days when I do cry over her. There's just that real life experience with grief, and you have these ups and downs, and Brian and I call them now grief swoons.
She suffered through all of these terrible problems better than anybody else I can imagine, and I didn't want part of her legacy to be that once she died, everybody else fell apart, and that faith that they supposedly had was totally meaningless and didn't help them at all.
We're not even just going to be 2 adults living in the same household. We're married, we are joined, God joined us in union. We are going to be still a loving married couple, and we will parent the other children that God has for us now and any coming in the future. So it was very important to us that our marriage would stay strong.
It was something Madeline and I navigated together, which was amazing. We talked about it a lot, constantly asking each other how we were doing, talking through whatever our emotions were. That whole ordeal strengthened our faith. I know it did for Madeline, I know it did for me.
One day when Blake wasn't born yet, so it was the first year or so after Amelia died, I was crying so hard, I was dry heaving and I was sobbing, and I absolutely felt what I understood to be the Lord Jesus' hand stroking my hair and saying into my spirit, not out loud, but into my spirit, I know you love her. I know you miss her. I love her more than you. And I know that's hard for you to understand. And she is healthy, and she is happy, and she is with me, and I will never leave you.
This family's story is really God's hand through the tough times.
We weren't sure if my dad was even gonna make it.
I need you to breathe into this as deeply as you can. You're turning blue.
It was very disheartening.
Do you have a living will?
And there was one point where he was on the verge of death.
They wouldn't let me in.
I need help. I need you to send angels to my hospital room to get rid of this.
He said, I don't really believe in God.
I was mad at them. I did not want to talk to them.
We have walked quite a bit of hard together.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all-loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.